Welcome, everybody, to Voices of Venus. I'm here today with a special guest, Frixos
Frixos,
Proedrou.
yes, yes.
Frixos
But yeah,
Proedrous, which is a Greek name, right?
yeah, it
And,
is.
and you're from Greece?
Yes, originally I'm from Greece. I was born here. I don't know. I might have some origins from the Middle East, or I don't know, but all mixed up somehow.
Yeah, exactly. It's a global world,
Yeah.
which is wonderful. Now, we met through a volunteer group that we're participating in at the Venus Project. And you have done so many things. I think I'm going to try and get this right. You sent me a little bit of information, and you're a trained dietitian, uh, botanist slash actor composer with IMDb credits, I might add. Border Patrol security agent by night, and you ran away with your girlfriend to live in a tent on an island on a mission to create paradise. And it seems that your dream has fulfilled itself. Did I get
Yeah.
that
Well,
close?
we didn't really run away because that sounds like we're hiding from the law or something like that. But
Well,
yeah,
you
we left the
eloped
city.
to a paradise, essentially.
We
Yeah,
escaped
awesome.
the city. Yeah, definitely.
Well, see, now that's a whole concept by itself. It's escaping, because there is a need for that to a certain extent for many of the things that we struggle with our capitalist society. And that's where I found that a lot of people that are involved with the Venus Project and several other projects that have kind of evolved through Jacques Fresco. Jacques Fresco was a thought leader, and he started a movement. And by a movement, I mean he moved people to think differently. And I think that's transcended into a lot of different projects. And we're kind of at the root project with the Venus Project. Where did that passion of yours align with the Venus Project to want to get involved in contributing and making a difference there?
Well, one thing that I was always bothered by is that, I was seeing from an early age a lot of unnecessary suffering self inflicted upon humans by themselves. And I couldn't understand because to me, humans seemed mostly good. I mean, they seemed to mostly avoid conflict. They were social beings. They like to laugh, have good time. And I was seeing a lot of unnecessary violence and suffering, which didn't actually align with my conception of human nature. So that was one of the basic things that led me to where I am now, trying to solve these problems. How can we, have a more civilized world?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because that's really important. When that idea of humans being good by nature. Um, the I've been watching the Viking series on Netflix, and that really kind of, as a Viking or from Danish descent, I look at the history. I mean, it was kind of a barbaric culture, at least it's being portrayed that by Hollywood, but still, I mean, history doesn't really lie. And a lot of cultures kind of ended up that way. You had the Crusades, different things, where over the years, our history, uh, has shown us really kind of the worst side of human nature. And as we try to become more civilized and more aware and just better humans and a better society, we wake up and we try to evolve from that. But at the same time, and I've seen this, probably seen this in politics as well, we're we can be very we can there are things that could happen that can push us backwards into that kind of, I don't want to say primal way of thinking. So how do you, in thinking about this, you've obviously tried to just say, hey, I'm going to try and make a better world. How do you or we, as communities of people that are trying to make it a better society, how do we wrestle with uh that part of human nature that, lack of a better word, is evil or inconsiderate, probably, of a lot of things that they need to be thinking about?
Well, it depends. It's actually, yes, as Zach always said, it's human behavior, and it's also based upon the conditions that we live in. So, yeah, if there is scarcity around us, and there are tribes of people that want to have access to land resources, and they're going to attack anything that. So, my basic concept is how can we create abundance so we don't have scarcity. We have the most food, water, resources available, and we utilize them as best as we can to make the best out of it. So, that's one of the solutions to that problem.
Well, so one of the things that I just interviewed a comrade of yours, VKN. He's part of one of the volunteer groups, and you guys have been working on this project in India. And one of the things that the key things that he said in the interview was that he's trying to create an abundance of food and a supply system and a kind of an advanced co-op, if you will. And I'll let you talk a little bit more about kind of that project as a whole. But he came up with that key idea of, well, the food is meant to not be sold; it's meant to be distributed. And if we can get to that point in our society where, hey, we've got we've got things and they're extra. Let's distribute them. Let's push them out. I mean, there's a lot of social organizations that are kind of trying to do that in various levels. Some food, some other goods and things to help others in the community and so forth from an abundance. But um, let's talk about the project in India that you've been working on. I'm gonna switch over here to the screen share really quick because whoops, this is the wrong one. Let's go over here because it's the tent, I call it. The This is where it all started. Now you've been working on this project for the Venus Project as one element of. There's a lot of research that's involved, and with the research that you're doing also on your would I call it a plantation? Your community? What would be the right phrase for the community that you're working on and have been part of? Eco
Uh,
village.
yes, you could say that, yes. An eco settlement of some sort,
And
yes.
now, what? Just before we get into this, so how many folks are in your settlement?
Well, we're just two. We're a small settlement. It's me and my girlfriend for now. But there are people come. There are people coming and
That's
going. Yes, and
We
staying for a
settled on it.
while.
That's it.
Yeah,
We're the
yeah.
That's
But there are
awesome.
people coming and leaving for a month, a couple of days, helping, and But the permanent settlers, it's me and my girlfriend for now.
Awesome. Well,
So
we're going to
now,
come back to that and we're going to explore that because that's a really interesting project and you've done a lot of work and a lot of neat things with that. Um, but let's talk a little bit about the volunteer project that you're working on with VKN and Borislav and I should give credit to the entire organization of the Venus Project, and they call it TVPIAS, which stands for Integrated Aquaponics Systems.
yeah.
So, how did this all come together, and you start working with VKN and get this momentum going here?
So I was already in the volunteer matrix of the Venus project before Viken came over, and I was responsible for the volunteers and communicating with new volunteers and people that wanted to join and help. So we had an application from Viken, who was identifying himself as a aquaponics futurist, and he came over and he presented this project, which was a very brilliant project, especially in places and areas that have water shortages. Because what he actually does is he has a fish tank with fish, and he uses the fertilized water from the fish to irrigate some beds that he uses just quartz silica sand on, and recirculates this water back to the system again and again. And this is, I mean, in conventional irrigation, you have to continuously provide more and more and more water to the system. So this was great for places that water is a problem. And also the fertilized water from the fish. is one of the greatest fertilizers you can have for growing vegetables and fruits and orchards and stuff like that. So it was a win-win situation.
Well, that's
And
awesome. Well,
also
go ahead. Go
another
ahead.
very big plus to this whole system is that you can grow a lot of fish, which is something that it's kind of you don't have to go to fish or empty the oceans or empty the rivers and stuff like that. You just grow your fish where you are and use the fertilized water to irrigate your crops. So that was a
Yeah,
brilliant system. Yeah.
and one of the things that I learned about this, the work that you're doing, and is that you also want to, if you have an aquaponic system, and I've kind of looked into that because I'm interested in creating one here, but uh, in my home. But the thing that comes down to the expense is the fish food. You got to feed the fish. And one of the things that he worked on, or you guys worked on, was a process for creating in a natural way the fish food, so that you can keep, through probably waste of leaves and those kinds of types of things, uh, some kind of compost, which I'd love to hear more about. But you created a system for at like low to minimal costs being able to sustain the fish. So if you keep that ecosystem going, you've not only created the efficiency for of water use, but you've also created a kind of a sustainable, well, kind of like what nature
Well,
does. Hey, we should learn
yeah,
from nature, right?
it's a circular economy. What he has
Yeah.
created over there. So what he does is he grows the food that the fish will eat, which is mainly moringa. He gives them moringa leaves, chaya mansa, which is another high protein plant, banana leaves, and I think these are the three main plants that he grows over there. So he managed because usually most of the fish feed comes in commercial fish pellets, which is like fish that you capture from the sea or from the ocean. You grind it, you process it, you make it into pellets, and you feed it to the fish. So you're again wasting fish and overfishing and emptying the ocean just to feed the fish that you weren't supposed to fish outside. So it's like a crazy system. But what he did is that he produced his own feed. But this works mostly for fish that are not carnivorous. So that's why he has the Nile tilapia, and now he's introduced the giant gourami fish, which is also. But he's taking it to another level, Viken, now with his
Yeah,
new experiment.
there's a plan to expand it to a larger area, and then experiment with other fish and other systems, uh, you know, or different kind of configurations, if you will,
Yeah,
of that.
because for example, one drawback for having fish inside the fish tank is that you have to continually aerate and provide oxygen to the tank, so which consumes energy and so on. But with the new fish that he brought, which is the giant gourami fish, these are breathers. They go up and they take some small breaths and they don't need aeration. So that's one bigger plus to the system. No need for pumps, aeration, or electricity or anything like that. So yeah, he's
Well, then
continuously.
you also, so you, well, but he's, there's, I suppose, a difference between, a tank and or having kind of a natural pond area that you would use as well. If you have a pond, I would think there's enough greenery in, some of the, or lily pads, or whatever the, the ecosystem of the pond that usually feeds the fish too.
Yeah,
So
definitely. But
so
yeah,
that's a whole, other system that, let's use nature to, it's a natural system.
that's an
And
open
learn from it.
system. Yeah. I am
Yeah.
more inclined towards the open systems rather than the closed systems. But whenever there's shortage of water, of course, a closed loop system should be more,
A
suitable.
little more
But
efficient.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm more inclined towards open system because in an open system you can do whatever you want. You can go do permaculture. You can have all kinds of different things, and it needs less energy to maintain.
Yeah, apologize for that. The Yeah, one of the things when you were talking about efficiency, that I see happen in America, but I think it's kind of a global phenomenon because we're eating a lot of meat. Well, we grow all this corn, and a majority of the corn that we grow goes to feed the cows, and then we have all this waste associated with managing the cows and butchering them and processing all the meat and everything. It's like, hey, why don't we just eat the corn? It just
Yeah.
like be a lot simpler, a lot better for the planet. I mean, I have to admit I love a hamburger, but it doesn't need to be, it doesn't have to be a hamburger. Actually, they have, and I don't know how you feel about this, but they have ways of growing meat now. Well, if you think about it, that's it'll taste like meat, but you know that if we
Well, yes.
it's growing your own food. I
Yes,
don't see a
as long as you maintain the quality of the meat, this all have to be checked because, I don't know exactly under which conditions and what additives and so on you add to this meat. But if you check the quality and the quality is good, is good protein and has a lot of minerals and all that is needed to sustain your metabolism, that's okay. Yes, I'm good with that.
Yeah, well, I would think, one of the most common things related to that, the additives, if the people want to eat red meat, right? So you go to the store and it's red. Well, it isn't necessarily red because like the meat that they grow might be green. It might be it's a different color versus or pink. Well, pink is close enough. But anyways, yeah, it's possible that there could be all kinds of additives just to kind of make people, connect with what they're used to. But well, hey, this is a really exciting project, and and you've been doing a lot of work with that with VKN and Borislav. But there's other things that you're working on, and I'm going to kind of shift this over to our to your Facebook page, if you don't mind, and I want to talk a little bit about you built a, a version of an Earth ship, essentially, where you have a cabin inside of a greenhouse and a whole ecosystem of gardening all around it. So tell us about this journey, how you went to now you're on an island. So the Greek islands they're islands, right? So it's a series of islands. Tell us about your island and what brought you to to want to go to your island and build this new home from scratch and start this gardening project, etc.
Oh yeah, as we said before, we just wanted to escape the city for first. I was a little bit. I was not pleased at all with following an academic career in nutrition because I figured out that everything is being infiltrated by the industry and it has become like a very commercial thing. It wasn't really science. So I said I'm going to focus on things that really matter, which is food, water, shelter, energy, things that are very very important to the survival of the species. So my girlfriend had the land in a valley in a Greek island in a very beautiful place. So you can see the oaks surrounding, and we have a creek, and all kinds of animals and eagles and owls and little squirrels. It's like a forest-like environment. So we said,
Beautiful.
okay, we're living, we're going there, and we see how it goes. So we went over here with just a tent and nothing else, and a little bit of
Now,
money.
what year did you do that? How long ago was this?
That was 2014, July 2014. We were supposed to come for vacation, but we never left. So yeah, we love the place.
There's a lot of people that would like, hey, I want to go to a Greek island on vacation and never come home. There's a
Yeah, that happens a
there's
lot. Yeah, I mean over here in the village, this is a very small village. We have all kinds of people from the UK, the Netherlands, all over Europe, South Africa. That just came to see the village and they bought a house and they stayed there. So over
so
here, yeah.
there is just a real quick you have some building materials here other than the earth that you've made this with, and like glass panes and those kinds of things. So there is a village, there is probably a port then that's bringing that is easy access, I would hope, to get various building materials.
Yeah, yeah, it's of course, but most of this glass windows you see, they're just scraps from people that were renovating, and they swapped and they did the aluminum things, and we just got them for free and just incorporated into the structure, or glass that we find here and there. So our problem is, we came here. We're in a tent. We cannot live in a tent forever. Although we stayed for 2 winters in the tent. So we
Wow.
wanted to build something, and there was no road coming to our place, and we didn't even want to do a road over here. So we said, what's available around us? So we had clay, we had wood, and we could find some glass and other stuff that we could import here. But our main construction materials was whatever we could find in the land, which was clay and wood basically. So we used that. We said, can we build with clay and wood? Definitely. And we did it.
So there's this was not something that you just knew like a cat knows to go to a litter box. You had to learn about this stuff and you had to experiment. You're a scientist by nature, probably at heart from your training as well. Um, what were the learning curves like in figuring out how to do this? And then I'm sure you learned some from mistakes or trial and error. Tell us about that process.
Well, most things that we learned were from mistakes. For example, if you build very fast and it's very cold, it's possible that the whole part of the structure will collapse on you. And that happened also during the winter. So, yeah, we just started. Well, clay is a very easy material to work with. You can sculpture it by hand, it's very malleable. You can do any shape, anything. So, you can also go on freestyle. You can start, and you don't even need to follow exactly the design you have made. So it's a very interesting material to work with.
So
So yeah,
I'm assuming that's your sleeping loft.
well that's where I am right now. Actually,
Okay.
it's yeah,
Cool.
it's I don't know if you can see, but yeah, it's a sleeping thing.
Awesome. And then let's see. So how big? How doesn't look huge, which you don't need a lot of space. You have okay. So this area over here, like underneath. How do you use all these various areas that you have here? So you have a loft, a comfortable place to sleep off the ground, uh, and then you have various storage and now the straw. What was the straw you mixed with the clay? I assume.
Yeah, it adds some strength. It does whatever the iron rods do to cement. So yes, it creates like a matrix and adds strength to the mix. And once it's in, it will never rot. It's it becomes invincible.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's fantastic. Now you can now do you also use it kind of for insulation around or anything, or is it just this was just in the process of building it you used it?
Well, the material itself is insulated. The roof is insulated, has an extra layer of clay and straw, but the material itself is insulated, so you don't need to add any extra insulation.
Now I imagine with clay, it retains heat.
Well, what clay does has very peculiar thermal properties. So it absorbs heat during the day, and during the night it exhales it steady and slowly. In contrast to cement or stone, which absorbs it very fast and exhales it very fast. So, if you live in a cement house and during the night you have a very, very rapid difference of temperature. But with clay, you don't have that because it releases the temperature steadily and slowly during the night. So that's one positive thing about this material.
Now, one of the things that you've been experimenting with, and I imagine some of it was perhaps inspired by taking all the time to build with clay, is the geopolymer.
Yeah.
And tell us about that whole. I'm going to show some pictures here after we get done going through this, but tell us a little bit about how you got on that track and some of the successes and failures and what you learned exploring geopolymer, and then what is the advantage of this? What where can this be applied to for practical use?
So, clay is a wonderful material, but it has two major disadvantages. It's prone to erosion from rain and friction. So, in order to have a clay house without any plaster on it, you need to have a roof that is sealed from water. And also inside, if you just leave it like that, the mere action of friction and walking on the floors and stuff like that will create some dust. So I was looking for coatings that I could apply on the structure, which would take care of these two problems, mainly erosion, make it waterproof, and friction. So the way I got into geopolymer actually is kind of weird because I was looking at the megalithic structures in Peru and the pyramids of Giza, and there was a material scientist, Professor Davidovich, which rediscovered geopolymers in 1971. And he found out that many of the megalithic structures were actually fake stones or reconstituted stones or natural cement. It was geopolymer. So that answered the question on, how did they build these massive blocks of rock and how did they move them? They didn't. It was cement. It was natural cement. So it was
Yeah,
geopolymer.
there's a little controversy over that, but yeah, when I first heard that, I was like, wow, that's fantastic, that's fascinating, and it just makes so much more sense because how are they going to get the precision otherwise?
There is a
It
lot of
just
controversy, and it's
yep.
because some of them are not geopolymer, some are. So, for example, the outer casing of the pyramids is geopolymer. The inner stones are not; they're just quarried. So, it's a, but it's an old material. It has been used like the Colosseum, the Roman cement, and it has been used in antiquity a lot for a lot of huge structures in India, if you see, and in Africa and all around the world. So when I found that you can actually have like a liquid slurry mix, which when it hardens, it becomes like a very strong rock, I said, that's it. I'm going to experiment with that. So I started my journey on that, and now, I've come up with several chemistries with geopolymer, which are very, very good and very, very easy and cheap to make.
That's fantastic. So one of the things that we when I was looking through this, now I thought about building an Earth ship, which is similar in concept, but it's built with tires, and you pack the tires. It's a lot of work, and what I found is that like this picture right here is classic because as we talked about, you made a lot of trips with that. You did a lot of work to build this whole thing by hand. That's
Yeah.
a seriously serious work there, and you mentioned in the process you eventually had a donkey to help you.
Well, yes, I thought that a neighbor had a donkey and he had to get rid of it. So he told me, "Oh, why don't you get the donkey to help you carrying out the soil and move the bags?" So I did, but it didn't go that well because he was stopping every 30 seconds to eat. So I ended up losing much more time than I would if I did it myself. So I let the donkey loose, and he was eating around, and then I continued to to carry the clay and the bags myself. So, but then I got a very feral donkey because usually they have them tied up or restricted. But I just let him loose in the mountains, and he became like very very feral, and it was impossible to. That's another story though. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, as a musician, I played one time on St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands, and we're playing, like 1:30 in the morning, and all of a sudden, right down Main Street, a herd of probably 300 wild donkeys just went whoosh, right past. It was a stampede like you'd see in an old Western movie. It's pretty crazy. So did he multiply, or he just got stubborn and didn't want to come hang out
Oh,
anymore?
he was already castrated, so he couldn't
Oh,
multiply.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do they have what is a on your island? What kinds of creatures and critters are out there that with gardening you have to worry sometimes. Deer are eating your
Well,
zucchini or your tomatoes or whatever.
the main problem here is goats. We have, lots of wild goats, which used to be domesticated, but during World War II, most of the people left the island, and after the war, they went to Athens or they went to work in the ships, and and then the goats became just wild. and they multiplied, and now we have thousands of wild goats roaming around and destroying everything. So yeah, we need to fence everything if we want to grow food. We have to fence it, really good over here.
Well, and goats eat anything.
Everything.
Yeah. So for example, we had we've got a little feedback issue going on there. Do you have your speakers up or something?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you when you're talking. When I talk is when I hear it.
I can hear you. I don't hear any echo or reverb or nothing. I can hear just that. I don't know what you're getting.
That's hopefully it won't be too bad. Um,
Do you get an echo or something?
yeah, I hear an echo from you. So when I talk, it's picking up and giving a feedback from
Well, I
you.
have my headphones on, so
It didn't seem to be there, but now is it related to this guy? No, it's not there. Let me come back over here. Let me just try this. Yeah, I'm still hearing it. Well, hopefully I'm only hearing it here, and people won't. Hopefully it won't be distracting. Anyways, I was saying about goats. The thing is, they eat everything and anything, and what I kind of say. Forgive me for being a little bit vulgar, but if they kind of go, I'm either going to eat it, or I'm going to fuck it, or I'm going to shit on it. they're that simple, and they
yeah.
made I had a picnic table because we had a couple goats, and he would come in and he would he'd pick one of the three if he couldn't eat it, and I had a chair on my deck, same thing, so
There are very few things that they wanted. They even ate our tent when we were living in a tent. So yeah.
it's no fun. Geez, I wonder what that. I hope that's not coming in here because I'm hearing a pretty annoying thing going on here. I don't know what that is. And I don't know where it came from.
Well, everything I hear is perfect over here on my end.
Give me a second. I don't know why where that came from. Pardon 1 second. I don't want to ruin this whole podcast here. Is this better? Better? Okay, a little better. It seems like it's hearing feet. Nope, it's still there. 1 second. Good. Is this better? No, that didn't help anything. Strange. Well, I hope that isn't coming through. Just started happening.
Well, if I don't, maybe it's not been recorded. You just hear it, I guess, because.
Let me hope.
Yeah.
Anyways, what I, what else might you have come across in your journey that you think would be interesting for folks if they wanted to explore the same kind of experience of running away to some land and starting their own building their house and starting their own community?
Well, it's easier than it seems. I mean, when we came here, I didn't even know how to screw or anything. I haven't done anything, and we managed to create everything from scratch. What we live, what we eat, our water. We were also involved in hydraulic systems. We managed to pump water without using any electricity or fuel at all. Hire over here to irrigate. So you can, if you want to, you can do almost anything. I mean, humans have great potential as long as you are willing to. You have the will to do what you want to do.
Well, it's a lot of work. That's the bottom line. It's you have to be open and willing to work that hard. Unfortunately, a lot of the younger generation that's involved in they're kind of consumed with social media and the idea of like, I'm just going to build the next killer app, as they don't necessarily want to work that hard. unfortunately. So I hope people will, the younger generation will wake up to the need for change in our society.
Yeah, I'm talking about the people that are willing to do something like that. I mean, if you don't want to do it, you won't do it. I mean, it's going to be very, very hard. But if you have the will to do it, I mean, my quality of life since I came here, it's much, 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 much better than when it was when I was living in the city. So
Less
I'm much,
stress.
much more healthy, much less stress. Of course, there is stress because there are always problems, but it's much, much different. There are different kinds of problems over here, but overall, the quality of life is much higher, and my health is much higher, much better. I haven't been sick for at least 6 years or something, not even a cold or anything. So, but that's also because I got involved a lot with botany over here. I'm trying to identify all the local herbs and medicines. I was looking for old books. I found some ancient books that were dealing with herbal medicine and stuff like that. So yeah, that helped a lot too.
Well, you're also an actor and composer. So if you could tell me a little bit about where this fits into your whole picture, because that's a paradigm shift from the other things that we've been talking about.
Yeah, well, that about a year before I came here, I starred in a short film movie. So what happened is my sister was wanting to be a director. So he was auditioning people and actors for her first movie, and she called me at some point, and she told me, "Why don't you come also to audition for me?" So I went over there. She liked it, and we did a short film that went really well. She got, and that boosted a lot her career. Now she's doing her new film. It's called Behind the Haystacks. It has gone all over the world, also in Hollywood, and
Where's the other one here?
it's called
Oops, it's over here behind the haystack.
yeah. So yes, and I've written also music for both movies. I'm doing. I had a home studio when I was in Athens, which I brought here with me, but haven't used it yet because I'm occupied with other things. So, and I was, composing some mostly orchestral rap, but with philharmonic elements and a lot of. I have
Oh,
a lot of.
wonderful.
Yeah, I was playing classical guitar since I was 5. You know.
I hope you still play.
I still have the guitar, but I haven't touched it for for a couple of years. But I will. I
Very good.
will.
Well, I'm really fast. I'd love to talk to you in more depth. Perhaps I'll even interview you on my other podcast, which is specifically for composers, and then talk about all your tools and toys and your experience in that regard. So yeah, I'd love to invite you onto the high note, where that's what I do is interview composers and talk about that journey, that musical journey, because that sounds like a whole nother fun path that you've been on.
Yeah.
Well, we are getting close to our time, and I'm really concerned because I'm really hearing a lot of distortion, and I hope that isn't reflected in my voice or that our end users aren't hearing this, but it's very possible. So, one of the things that I like to ask you in closing thoughts, what would you recommend for folks that are interested in learning more about the Venus Project and what's the experience like? There is a form if they go to the future age food, agriculture, ecology, materials, and energy section of the website. There's a form online, and they can certainly click on this form and fill out that information. I assume at one point you were the guy that was responding to that, but somebody else is doing that now.
I'm still responding for that, only for the food, agriculture, materials, energy. There are other groups for other, but for this particular subject, I'm responding to the. So if you join the platform, I will respond to you within a day.
That's fantastic, and I'm hoping that people will see that there's a lot of exciting things going on at the Venus Project. We certainly all appreciate your participation and volunteering for the initiative, and we'll have some more. Geez, this is, I don't know what the heck is happening here. This is really annoying. I hope this isn't in the broadcast, but I really hope that folks will consider participating. Really appreciate your involvement and volunteerism. And we're going to talk more in the future about some of the other projects that you're involved with, because there's an exciting initiative going on in Brazil. And we're going to hear more about your geopolymer. And hopefully you and I can connect on our other podcast with the High Note. We can talk a little bit more about your journey in music and composition in the arts. And that would be very fascinating. So I want to thank you very much today for joining me. This is Frixos Proedrou, and he's an actor, composer, dietitian, botanist, builder of earth-ship houses out of clay, and you're building an awesome paradise with your girlfriend and a cat. There's a cat in there. You've got a little helper, if he's only for moral support. So, what's your cat's name?
There are 7 or 8 cats over here, so they
Oh,
all have
7 or 8.
yeah, very weird name. But we need them for the rodents because there are also rodents over here, so they take care of the rodents and some of the vipers. So yeah, they're part of the ecosystem too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I want to thank the folks that might watch this related to the Voices of Venus. Until next time, we'll see you again. Thank you, Voices of Venus. Frixos, thank you for joining me. Have a great day.